On the 28th of June 1919, the Treaty of Versailles was finally signed, putting an end to the First World War. All of the great empires of Europe had fallen: Germany, Austria Hungary, Russia, and the Ottomans. Germany was blamed for the entire devastation the war had caused. It was left absolutely humiliated. There were many conditions of the treaty which were deemed unacceptable by the German people. Germany's new democratic government couldn't handle the economic crisis and hyperinflation brought on by its failure to pay the reparations demanded by the Treaty of Versailles. The Great Depression also did not help the government's legitimacy as unemployment skyrocketed, leaving Germans increasingly frustrated with their situation. With the democratic government seeming to be useless, the frustrated German people turned to more radical ideologies like communism and Nazism. In this background, a new figure was emerging rapidly through the political landscape. The people had found a figure to rally around who provided them the solution to all of their problems. Adolf Hitler had served in the German army in the First World War and was devastated when Germany surrendered. Hitler was born in Austria Hungary. He was an ethnic German, which was pretty common in the area he lived in. He was highly nationalistic and believed that all ethnic Germans should be unified into a single state, an idea which had existed before the unification of Germany in 1871. After his failure to become a professional artist, Hitler emigrated to Munich to find a place to stay, but became homeless, unable to find any job. Around this time, Hitler started to become strongly anti Semitic, and he began to take an interest in many anti Semitic newspapers. The outbreak of the First World War gave Hitler's life a purpose again. Hitler finally got the opportunity to serve Germany as he always wanted to do. He immediately joined the army and went to the front lines in France. He was later awarded the Iron Cross for his service in the war. After the war, Hitler joined the German Workers' Party and used his charisma and his excellent ability as an orator to rise through the ranks, and eventually became the leader of the party, rebranding it the National Socialist German Workers' Party, which is also known as the Nazi Party. With the passing of the Enabling Act by the German government in 1933, Hitler had seized total control of the German government. Now that he had seized power, Hitler finally began to go against the Treaty of Versailles, which he and most Germans had hated. So Germany began to grow its military back again, and the Luftwaffe, the German Air Force, was established in 1933. Both of these were firmly forbidden by the Allies in the Treaty of Versailles, but they did nothing to stop Hitler. Well, why didn't they stop Hitler, you might ask? Well, the Allies, which were Britain and France, did not want to risk another large scale war. The people in those countries did not want to fight another great war after the devastation the First World War had caused. So they did not act at all. In 1938, after the military build-up and a referendum in Austria, the German army marched into the country, and Austria was forcibly annexed into Germany. This was also expressly forbidden by the Treaty of Versailles, but the Allies, again, did nothing. Hitler then demanded the area of the Sudetenland, which was an area of Czechoslovakia, which is populated by ethnic Germans. So, in a meeting with Hitler in Munich, Neville Chamberlain, the British Prime Minister, and Edward Daladier, the French President, agreed to let Germany annex the Sudetenland. Immediately after the agreement, Germany annexed Bohemia and occupied Slovakia. The Allies still did nothing. These territorial acquisitions had made Hitler ambitious. His goal was defined by the concept of Lebensraum, in which new territories had to be conquered for settlement by the German people. Hitler focused on Eastern Europe for this territory, and his main enemy, the Soviet Union. Hitler had made plans to reincorporate the Polish corridor in the city of Danzig from Poland. These territories had been stripped from Germany to give the new Polish state access to the sea. The British and the French now decided to act. They had guaranteed the independence of Poland and from an invasion by Germany, and Hitler knew that a Polish invasion would inevitably lead to war with the Allies. So, Hitler decided to put his conquest on Eastern Europe on a hold. The foreign ministers of both Germany and the Soviet Union negotiated a deal known as the Molotov Ribbentrop Pact. This pact divided Eastern Europe up between the two countries and prevented war between them for the foreseeable future. Germany sent Poland an ultimatum: give them Danzig or face war. Poland refused. So, on the 1st of September 1939, Germany launched the invasion of Poland and Britain and France declared war on Germany. The Polish military for some time held the Germans back, but then, as dictated by the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, the Soviets also invaded from the east, and the Polish were completely helpless against both the German and the Red armies. Germany annexed the western parts of Poland, a little more than they had agreed with the Soviets, and the Soviets occupied the rest. For some time, the Western Front saw little action, as neither side invaded, but Hitler had already made plans for his next conquest. Germany had been importing minerals from Sweden, as the supply lines went through Norway. The Allies tried to block the supply lines of the minerals, and Germany sought to protect its trade. So Germany launched an invasion of both Denmark and Norway, called the 6-Hour War, because of its short length. Germany quickly occupied both Denmark and most of Norway. The British tried to help the Norwegians out by sending volunteers, but it was useless. Germany easily defeated the British and the Norwegian armies, and Germany occupied all of Norway. Following this humiliating defeat, Chamberlain resigned and Winston Churchill took office as Prime Minister. Now, with the mineral trade fully secure, Hitler focused directly on the Allies. France had a large army and had massive fortification on the German border, known as the Maginot Line. Hitler knew that invading France through the Maginot Line was incredibly difficult, so he decided to do what Germany did in the First World War: invade France through Belgium and Luxembourg and quickly take Paris. Germany used the policy of blitzkrieg, rapid and fast and advanced warfare. On the 10th of May 1940, Germany invaded the Netherlands, Belgium, and Luxembourg to get around France's defenses. The British and the French armies charged into Belgium to combat the Germans, but the Germans had found a gap in the French defenses. The Ardennes, a region of France which had not been defended properly because of the terrain. The Germans pushed through the Ardennes and encircled the French and the British troops in northern France and Belgium. As the Germans closed in, the French troops bravely held out till the British evacuated from mainland Europe through Dunkirk. With most of the French military devastated, the German army swept through France and occupied Paris. With France collapsing, Germany's biggest ally at the time, Fascist Italy, and its leader Benito Mussolini declared war on France and invaded it from the south. With both the Germans and the Italians invading, France surrendered. In only about 2 months, fighting on the Western Front had ended.